Good morning, Wabash. Today, speaking in Pioneer Chapel is Mrs. Sue Schneider with her talk entitled The Secret of Life. Sue Schneider serves as the Athletics Administrator of Internal Operations at Wabash and has been with the Athletics Department since January of 2012. Before arriving at Wabash, Sue served in a variety of roles in education and athletics administration. From 1998 to 2004, she worked as an elementary school teacher in Indianapolis at the Fishback Creek Public Academy, teaching 4th and 5th grades. In 2004, she transitioned to administration, working as the Director of Academic Affairs at Covenant Christian High School in Indianapolis for 4 years. After leaving CCHS in 2008, Sue joined the IU School of Education at IUPUI as a university instructional coach and an adjunct faculty member. In this role, she taught courses for prospective elementary teachers and managed student teaching placements, observations, and assessments. Sue Schneider earned her bachelor's degree in education from Indiana University at IUPUI and her master's degree in education administration from Butler University. She lives in Hendricks County with her husband, Bob, and their 2 dogs, Baby Bear and Biscuit. They have 4 grown children, 4 granddaughters, and 1 grandson, are all adorable. Just ask Sue and she'll happily share a picture or 2. Most of the student athletes and a few coaches call her Mama Sue, which suits her just fine, but she thinks of herself as the coach whisperer. Please welcome Mrs. Sue Schneider.
Good morning, Wabash.
Good morning, Sue.
That might be a bucket list item. Before I begin, a few thank yous are in order. To Keith, Joe, and the Sphinx Club, thank you for the invitation to speak this morning. It is an honor and a privilege that I do not take lightly. To the students, staff, and faculty that are here this morning, thank you for your presence. It means more than you know. To Dean Raiders, who said he was going to be here this morning, thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on me as a temporary employee nearly 7 years ago. The opportunity has been life-changing. To our new AD, Matt Tanney, the coaches, trainers, and students, thank you for making my job an amazing experience every single day. Now, perhaps you've noticed that I've proudly displayed my favorite little giant teams here in the front. Yes, every team is a favorite. Starting on my left, we have wrestling, finishing in the top 5 nationally for the last 4 years. Track and field, of course, holder of 10 consecutive NCAC championships. Tennis, which ended up out in California last year for the NCAA tournament in doubles. Swimming and diving, which has too many broken records to count. Soccer, NCAA tournament contender, and a 3-peat winner over DePaul. Lacrosse, new coach, new attitude. Look out, world, something's coming. Golf. Can I just say, anybody that can swing a club and hit a ball that's less than 2 inches in diameter, I think is pretty amazing and awesome. Football. The bell is back. Need I say more? Cross country. I just want to say good luck to the Red Pack because they're competing in the conference championships this weekend. Basketball. They're tall, they're young, they're hungry. Look out, NCAC, they're coming for you. Baseball. Where's baseball? Oh, that's right. I'm wearing my 2018 NCAC Conference Championship pendant. Shout out, guys. Congratulations again to the baseball team. That was quite a ride at the end of the season, and you make us all very proud. Okay. I'm not good with that. Whenever I meet someone on campus, I'm often asked, what is it you do in athletics? And sometimes I want to answer that I herd cats. But actually, I think I have the best job ever. While my main focus is office operations, athletics ticket management, and our favorite NCAA compliance, ultimately, my favorite part of what I do is working with our students and coaches on a daily basis. In fact, the frequently most question I'm asked is, okay, be honest, who's really your favorite coach? Let's just put that to rest once and for all. Would my favorite coach please stand? Yes, it's true, they're all my favorite. Just ask them. I've never worked alongside a more caring, dedicated, driven, and professional group of men. What they do to bring students to campus, mentor them, and win along the way, well, let's just say it is not a 9-to-5 job. Please join me in thanking these incredible coaches for all they do for Wabash College. Now, the beauty of Wabash is that the faculty and staff demonstrate this same dedication in their commitment to providing all students with the best education possible. I truly cannot imagine working anyplace else. So here I am standing before you as part of a weekly Wabash tradition. While it is most definitely a great honor, to be honest, it's also a bit terrifying. Perhaps you're hoping I'll spill the beans on our coaching staff and tell stories about their office behavior. And do I have stories? Like the time I actually sent 2 coaches who were having a rather loud discussion to their respective offices for a timeout. But seriously, what could I possibly say that would be inspiring, relevant, and hopefully a bit entertaining? As I'm sure all chapel speakers do, I finally realized I just need to speak from my heart, and hopefully something will stay with you. Before sharing my perspective on the secret of life, I think it's important for you to know a bit more about me and how I ended up at Wabash College. In addition to what Sam shared, or Sham shared, my Facebook profile describes me as a God-loving wife, mom, grandma, and Little Giant superfan. Beyond that, I guess you could say I'm truly a child of the 60s. I was born in Indianapolis, and I grew up in Pike Township when it was still known as a farming community. I graduated from high school in what my classmates and I fondly refer to as the last and the best of the 70s. During my first year of college, just up the road at Purdue, I remember cheering wildly as the USA hockey team defeated the USSR, do any of you know what that is? On their way to a gold medal for the 1980 Winter Olympics. You had to be there, it was awesome, but you can get the movie. In the spring of 1982, I married my 3rd grade boyfriend and high school sweetheart. In 1985, we welcomed our first son. In 1987, we welcomed our 2nd son. In 1989, we welcomed our 3rd son. In 1991, we got a dog. In 1996, I finished my bachelor's degree in elementary education. Being married and having 3 children tends to slow one's progress just a bit. But finally, 17 years after I began my college journey, I earned my degree. So if you're having time management issues, please feel free to stop by my office. I have lots of experience. At the end of 2001, I completed my master's in school administration. The plan was for me to become an elementary school principal, and then my husband was going to retire early so he could pursue his dream of coaching and facilitating a youth sports program. Life, however, did not turn out exactly how we planned. 6 months after I completed my master's degree, my husband of 20 years was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And less than 6 months after his diagnosis, he left this world for his heavenly home. Now, before you ask, he never smoked, not even one cigarette. This particular type of cancer usually develops from secondhand smoke and is asymptomatic until it's already spread to other areas. In his case, it went from his lungs to his hips and then the base of his spine. He actually thought he had pulled a muscle while he was training for the mini marathon. This was one of those time stops moments. Now and forever, there is life before cancer and life after my first husband's death. My sons and I did the best we could, moving through the fog of grief to actually living life again, with joy and happiness. The ache never truly ends, but life moves on, and living becomes a bit easier with each passing day. Honestly, I wasn't sure what life was going to be like moving forward, but I was determined to be the best version of myself for my 3 teenage sons. Day by day, we learned to laugh again. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, we discovered a new normal. Never the same, but still living and moving forward. Sometimes we'd feel guilty for feeling happy, but mostly we cherished our memories and lived life as best we could. In August of 2003, I was catching up with our youth minister about my return that fall as a youth leader. I knew that the 1-year anniversary of my husband's death was approaching, and people would be watching and wondering, is she going to start dating again? Will she ever get married again? Now, I truly loved being married, but I did not want to date. The last time I had dated was in high school. There was another adult youth leader by the name of Bob Schneider who was also single. Bob and I had known each other since middle school, and we were definitely friends, but dating him, well, that just seemed weird. So I told the youth minister that if Bob ever said anything about dating me, he should do his best to discourage it. Did I mention that life doesn't always turn out the way we think? Fast forward to February of 2004. I began to see Bob through fresh eyes. And well, long story short, in March, Bob asked my 3 sons for permission to date me. And 2 months later, he asked them for my hand in marriage. Life is funny. Just when you think you've got it all figured out, something always happens. And whether it's good or bad is irrelevant. It's how we respond that truly matters. All right, let's fast forward again. In the spring of 2011, Bob and I moved to Putnam County, just to the south, when he was hired as associate pastor for Bainbridge Christian Church. I was still at IUPUI, and a 70 to 90-minute commute each way was not fun. So on a lark, I submitted an application to Manpower here in Crawfordsville in the hopes of finding something closer to home. Long story short, I was hired as a temp in the Dean of Students office, thanks again, Dean Raiders, and I literally fell in love with Wabash College. Although the position was only for 3 weeks, I knew I'd be keeping my eyes open for a permanent position on campus. Within 2 weeks, I was back on campus as a temp again, but this time it was the athletics department. And I have to give a shout out to my first boss, Joe Hacklin. Thank you, sir. Yeah. That was nearly 7 years ago, and I'm still here. So what does all of this have to do with today's chapel talk? Well, given the sheer volume of life that I've experienced, I'd like to think I've learned a little bit about the secret of life. Now, you've probably heard most of this before, but give it a listen again. Sometimes we need to hear the same thing over and over before it becomes ingrained in our thinking. First and foremost, I am a woman of faith. So as I began preparing this talk, I was reminded of one of my favorite passages from the Bible, Galatians 5:22 and 23, which says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control." Now note the passage lists multiple facets of the fruit, but it's describing a singular fruit, not fruits. In much the same way, I believe the secret of life has multiple components. And my hope is that when I'm done, you will have discovered a hidden secret to the secret of life. There are 6 if you need to count and know how far we are. Number 1, watch and listen. Growing up, my best friend's family was literally my second family. Her mom, Ruth Ann, was my role model. She represented everything I wanted to be: kind, caring, loving, and hospitable. I don't remember their house looking like Better Homes and Gardens, something out of that magazine, but I do know it was always filled with love and kindness. So I watched her. I watched how she treated others with love and compassion. I experienced firsthand her generosity of time, friendship, and food. I never once ever left their house hungry, ever. I also listened. I listened to how she spoke, and perhaps more importantly, when she didn't speak. Ruth Ann used to tell me that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. I'll be honest, even at my age, I'm still working on this. Too often, we're prepping our response instead of truly listening to the person that's speaking. So who is it that you admire? Perhaps a professor whose passion for the subject matter inspires you, or a teammate whose work ethic surpasses his talent, but he just keeps at it. Maybe it's a fraternity brother or a roommate whose dedication to his studies motivates you to do the same. Is it a family member who's always quick to provide encouragement? Watch and listen to those who inspire, encourage, and motivate you. Ruth Ann was the way she was because she loved Jesus and she taught me to love him too. I don't say that to sound preachy, but everything I do is predicated on my faith. If I'm remotely good at being loving, kind, and compassionate, it's because I watched and listened to an amazing, godly woman, and I try my best to emulate how she lived a life of love. Students, you have an entire campus of people that are here to help you grow and develop. So who are you watching and listening to? Find at least one person you respect and admire, and then watch and listen. Number 2, actively engage. 2 weeks ago, my friend, the real T. Wade, shared from his heart about choices. One thing he mentioned resonated deeply with me. Do you take time to look up from your phone or device and engage with those around you? Let me be honest. On numerous occasions, I have had to stop on a campus walking path to avoid a collision with someone who was glued to their phone. Seriously, this just happened a couple of days ago. I was sure the individual was going to look up and see me, but alas, I had to move before we collided. We can be better than that. Wabash prides itself on the brotherhood and a deep sense of community. Community begins with communication and actively engaging with those around you. If you grew up in a small church like I did, then you know that food and fellowship are intertwined. Sharing a meal or just even a coffee with someone is the perfect way to build or strengthen a relationship. 4 months after my first husband's funeral, I sat crying in church for the umpteenth time. Following the service, a couple that I knew but not particularly well asked me to join them for coffee at Starbucks. My addiction to Starbucks was pretty well known, and so I accepted. They did not try to offer me empty words of comfort. They simply let me talk for 2 hours. I am forever grateful for the time they spent actively engaging in my life. It was a pivotal moment in my healing process. So I'd like to propose a 2-part challenge to all of you here this morning. For the next 30 days, put your phone in your pocket when you're walking across campus and say hi to those you meet and enjoy a spontaneous conversation. And then sit with someone new at meal times, or at least once a day, stop by someone's room or office just to say hi. Actively engaging with others makes them feel valued and deepens the bond of community, which is, after all, the Wabash way. Number 3, be kind. The dictionary defines being kind as having or showing friendly, generous, and considerate nature. So as you are watching and listening and actively engaging with those around you, keep kindness at the forefront. We all know that it isn't our words, but often how we say them that truly matters. Too often our words are never heard simply because of our tone. Being kind means considering our tone. Is it friendly and considerate? But kindness isn't just about the words we speak, it's how we treat others. Do your words and actions demonstrate generosity and consideration? Make no mistake, we are all here to help each other, but valuing our fellow students' and colleagues' time also demonstrates consideration, the very definition of being kind. Kindness is also being willing to challenge someone who might be slipping in one area or another. Now, I've already shared how much I love and respect our coaching staff, but it's not just for what they do for our students. It's also for the way they care for and challenge me. For several weeks at the beginning of the year, until probably through late September, I felt awful physically. I was tired from not sleeping well because of my allergies, and I developed a sinus infection which morphed into a horrible cough and sore throat. Honestly, I sounded like the midnight to 3 a.m. DJ. Unfortunately, I didn't realize how my physical health was impacting my demeanor until one of my favorite coaches stopped by my office to tell me he missed me being my usual sweet self. That really caught me off guard. But I was thankful that this coach confronted me with such kindness and gentleness. First, I went back to the doctor and I got better meds. And second, I focused on being kind despite how tired and icky I felt. How about you? Do you lash out when you're tired and cranky, or do you make the extra effort to remain kind? Trust me, you'll actually feel better when you're being kind and considerate to others. Number 4, accept responsibility. Say hi for me. Sorry, I can't resist. I'm sorry. I just want to be kind. Accept responsibility. I recently viewed a video featuring Vietnam veteran Richard Pimentel describing the word responsibility. Richard shared these words that were spoken to him by his sergeant while facing nearly insurmountable odds during the Vietnam War. His sergeant said this: "Responsibility is a word made of 2 words, the word response and the word ability. Responsibility isn't what someone puts on you. Responsibility is not your job description. Responsibility isn't a paper you sign. We all find ourselves looking at situations, and we all find ourselves with abilities. We have to ask ourselves is, given my abilities, what then will be my response to those abilities? What is our response to our ability?" Richard and a few other soldiers had the ability to slow down the enemy while the rest of the unit escaped down the backside of the hill. It wasn't fun, it wasn't glorifying, but it was necessary, and they accepted their response to their ability. What are your abilities? Are you gifted with the ability to learn new languages? Or maybe calculus is your second language. Do you thrive with writing assignments? Each of us has gifts and abilities. What we have to ask ourselves is, what will be our response to those abilities? Now, let me be perfectly honest for a moment. There have been times where I have cringed at the Mama Sue moniker. It's not that I don't love the nurturing and supporting role that I fill for the coaches and students, but sometimes it seemed less professional, less administrator-like to be known as Mama Sue. But you see, supporting and nurturing others, those are my abilities. So being Mama Sue is my response to those abilities. And for as long as I work in the athletics department, I will be Mama Sue. So how about you? Do you seek ways to help others with your abilities? One more challenge. Take time to assess your abilities, and then define your response and accept your responsibility. Number 5, serve others. It might sound a bit redundant given our discussion about responsibility, but serving others isn't always about your gifts or abilities. Neither is it doing something because there's a service requirement for a class. To truly serve others, it must come from your heart. This type of serving others can be as simple as taking time to be present in the moment, to listen, to encourage, to help, support, or to bring cookies on Monday morning. Serving others can be as simple as picking up the trash that you see on campus or helping someone with the door, especially when his or her arms are full. I haven't always accepted offers of help around campus, but I will tell you that just hearing the offer is heartwarming. Knowing that someone is willing to go out of their way to provide assistance can brighten one's days in ways you can't imagine. The flip side of serving others is that it takes the focus off our own situation. When I was first widowed, I was able to spend 3 weeks away from my classroom to grieve, process paperwork, grieve, help my sons grieve, and rest, because grieving is exhausting. One thing that helped me immensely in my grieving process was doing something for someone else. Whether it was simply doing my son's laundry or preparing a special meal, simply focusing on someone else rather than myself and my grief helped me in my process of healing. Whatever your situation, whether you're stressed about classes, feeling tired, or grieving a loss, take a moment to consider how you might serve someone else. And then, as Shia LaBeouf would say, just do it. Last one, number 6, have fun. Many of you here today have asked me at one time or another the simple question, how are you? More likely than not, I responded with, living the dream. Most of the time, I mean it. I have to give a quick shout out to Murphy Sheets, class of 2017, for inspiring me with this response. You see, Murphy always seemed to look on the bright side and simply enjoyed life. Make no mistake, he encountered the same struggles as any Wabash student, feeling like there was never enough time for studies, athletics, clubs, work, other interests. But no matter what kind of day he was having, Murphy always seemed to find the fun. May I ask you a question? Are you enjoying life? Look, I'll be the first to admit life is hard. Sometimes it feels like all rain and no rainbows. But in the midst of living life and chasing dreams, are you having fun? Don't miss silly moments because of all the work you have to do. Make sure you build at least a little fun into each day. This idea is so important that Wabash College tweeted about it on Monday. As philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said, and I practiced that, by the way, if people never did silly things, nothing intelligent would ever get done. One of my favorite silly Wabash memories happened back in 2013. I think it was Andy Walsh, class of 14, and another student. And they were bringing Gator from the other side of campus back to the Allen Center. And they got out here by the arch, and they realized that the Gator wasn't going to fit around the arch. It did fit through the arch, but they were undergrads, and you know what that means. So I stopped to watch them for a few minutes and was thoroughly enjoyed at their problem-solving skills. Basically, they lined it up, and they set it to go, and then they jumped out and ran around the arch, and as it came through, they jumped back in again. It was awesome. I literally laughed out loud. My point, though, is while they were on a mission to get the Gator, I don't know, maybe they were bringing it back for the training department, these two found a way to have a bit of fun while working through a problem. So what about you? Do you find ways to have fun each day? I'm not talking about parties and big events. I mean, do you take the time each day to enjoy life and have fun? We've got the new Wally's, so you could go there, or you could grab coffee at the Brew. Maybe it's Ultimate Frisbee on the mall. Whatever it is, find ways to have fun. Well, there you have it. The secret of life according to Mama Sue. Nothing revolutionary or overly insightful, just facing the realities of life with a Wabash mentality to think critically, act responsibly, lead effectively, and live humanely. So did you catch it? Did you catch the secret to the secret of life? Watch and listen. Actively engage. Be kind. Accept responsibility. Serve others. Have fun. Yes, that's it. The secret of life is Wabash. Not the college buildings, but the people like you that make this a great place to learn and work together. Thank you again for being here this morning. And in conclusion, I would be remiss if I did not mention it's Whit Week. So let's go, Wabash football. Beat those stinking Tigers because Wabash always fights, and always means always.